Tim Burton is a well-known artist, poet, screenwriter, and producer, with films like Edward Scissorhands,
A Nightmare Before Christmas,
and the new Alice in Wonderland,
his gothic style with themes of death and macabre are prevalent in most of his works of art.
but often in a comical way, believe it or not.
Burton finds inspiration in the authors he loves, like Edgar Allan Poe and Roald Dahl. He admires them for their unconventional ideas and the complexity of their characters and stories.
Burton's writing is both funny and dark, like the following poem, Vincent, titled after famous horror movie actor and voiceover Vincent Price.
Vincent Malloy
Is 7 years old.
He's always polite and does what he's told. For a boy his age, he's considerate and nice, but he wants to be just like Vincent Price.
He doesn't mind living with his sister, dogs, and cats, though he'd rather share a home with spiders and bats. There he could reflect on the horrors he's invented and wander in dark hallways alone and tormented.
Vincent is nice when his aunt comes to see him, but imagines dipping her in wax for his wax museum.
He likes to experiment on his dog Abercrombie in the hopes of creating a horrible zombie, so he and his horrible zombie dog could go searching for victims through the London fog.
His thoughts, though, aren't only of ghoulish crimes. He likes to paint and read to pass some of the times. While other kids read books like Go, Jane, Go, Vincent's favorite author is
Edgar
Allan
Poe.
One night, while reading a gruesome tale, he read a passage that made him turn pale.
Such horrible news he could not survive, for his beautiful wife had been buried alive.
He dug out her grave to make sure she was dead, unaware that her grave was his mother's flower bed.
His mother sent Vincent off to his room. He knew he'd been banished to the Tower of Doom, where he was sentenced to spend the rest of his life alone with the portrait of his beautiful wife.
While alone and insane, encased in his tomb, Vincent's mother burst suddenly into the room. She said,
If you want to, you can go and play. It's sunny outside and a beautiful day.
Vincent tried to talk, but he just couldn't speak. The years of isolation had made him quite weak.
So he took out some paper and scrawled with a pen.
I am possessed by this house and can never leave again.
His mother said,
You're not possessed and you're not almost dead. These games that you play are all in your head.
You're not Vincent Price, you're Vincent Malloy. You're not tormented or insane, you're just a young boy. You're 7 years old and you are my son. I want you to get outside and have some real fun.
Her anger now spent, she walked out through the hall, and while Vincent backed slowly against the wall,
The room started to swell, to shiver and creak. His horrid insanity had reached its peak.
he saw Abercrombie,
His zombie slave,
and heard his wife call from beyond the grave. She spoke from her coffin and made ghoulish demands.
Wow, through cracking walls reached skeleton hands.
Every horror in his life that had crept through his dreams swept his mad laughter to terrified
To escape the madness, he reached for the door, but fell limp and lifeless down on the floor.
His voice was soft and very slow as he quoted the Raven from Edgar Allan Poe.
And my soul from out that shadow
That lies floating on the floor shall be lifted.
Never more.
It only makes sense now to read from Poe's immortal classic poem,
The Raven.
With the twist.
Once upon a poem, dreary,
that made my eyes so red and teary.
over a famous tale,
Without the slightest hint of gore.
Poe's long poem that he'd been slaving,
About a dark and evil craven,
that turned out to be a raven.
Ranting about his lost Lenore.
who kept repeating a single phrase,
Only that and nothing more.
So I read The Raven.
Nevermore.
Though not everyone is a fan of Poe, there's no denying his influence on the horror genre. Writers like H.P. Lovecraft, Stephen King, and Wes Craven have all claimed that Poe's works influenced their own murder and mayhem. Poems, novels, short stories, and films.
Horror films are among the top ranking in the film industry. People love horror films.
It would seem that being a witness to the grotesque slaughter of others would turn viewers away, but many watch horror films to face fake fears and laugh at some of the outrageousness.
Seth Grahame-Smith's book, How to Survive a Horror Movie, mocks what he calls terrorverse in the horror genre by providing
All the skills.
To survive the kills.
How do I know if I'm in a horror movie?
Horror movie characters aren't killed by machete-wielding monsters or reincarnated psychopaths. They're killed by ignorance. Ignorance of the mortal danger they're in, of the butcher lurking in every shadow.
Ignorance of the fact that they're in a horror movie.
How do you know if you've been sucked into the terrorverse? Sometimes the signs are unmistakable.
For instance, if you're a teenage babysitter caring for a mute toddler in a remote Maine cabin during a once-in-a-century blizzard while an escaped killer roams the woods.
Bearing a strange resemblance to the handicapped boy you and your friends pushed off an embankment and left for dead all those years ago.
You're probably in a horror movie.
Be sure that you take a look around.
The environment should offer some clues.
If you're on a crowded city street in broad daylight, you're probably safe.
For now.
But if you're anywhere remote,
The woods, an old house, an abandoned mental institution in the middle of a blackout.
then yes, your chances of being in a horror movie are much higher.
How the location looks and sounds can be helpful too.
Is it poorly lit?
Is everything bathed in bright blue light, even though it's supposed to be nighttime?
Are there shadowy corners that you should be able to see into but can't?
You see children's sidewalk chalk drawings that should have washed away ages ago?
Is everything suddenly covered in cobwebs or rust?
Is there a thin layer of smoke on the ground for no reason? Do you hear strange sounds? Do metal on metal noises seem to come out of nowhere?
If the answer to any of these questions is affirmative, then we have to consider the possibility that you've become trapped in a horror movie.
Take a look at yourself.
Are you or any of your companions wearing a varsity leather jacket?
Is there an achingly naive person in your midst?
Do all of your friends look suspiciously like cast members from Vampire Diaries and Pretty Little Liars?
If so, your chances of meeting an untimely end have just increased by a factor of 10.
Determine if you fit any of the classic horror movie character stereotypes.
The nice guy with the monosyllabic first name,
Hi, I'm Todd.
The clueless cheerleader.
the innocent daughter of a cop, priest, or richest man in town,
If these bear an uncanny resemblance to you or your companions,
you're most certainly in a horror movie.
But before we panic, let's confirm the diagnosis.
Conduct the MAD test. MAD stands for motivation and dialogue.
and it is one of the quickest, most accurate ways of confirming the presence of the terror.
Motivation.
If you or your friends feel strangely compelled to do any of the following,
You're definitely in a horror movie.
Dig up a coffin and make sure something's really dead.
play with a Ouija board or read from a dusty old book.
Go make out with someone in the house where the guy killed his whole family.
Carve a crucifix in your face with a rusty screwdriver.
Say what?
Dialogue.
Ask each of your companion, what time is it?
If they answer with the following, you're in deep trouble.
Time to go for a walk in the dark woods.
Time for a car to break down on a deserted road.
Time to unlock all the doors.
After seeing someone outside in a creepy mask,
Time to watch a movie really late at night.
You must be in a horror film.
Check the calendar.
There are only 3 months in the horror movie year, July, October, and December.
in July, teens are off from school.
Free to drink, wear bikinis, attend summer camp, and make other bad decisions at will.
October is, of course, the unholiest of months, when long-dead serial killers, ghosts, witches, and all manner of beasts return to the world of the living to seek revenge.
And December is reserved for Christmas killing sprees, evil Santas, possessed stepfathers, gremlins, and snowbound caretakers.
If the nearest calendar reads May, you can relax a little.
However, if every Friday falls on the 13th, forget the month. You're toast.
Check your watch. The horror movie day is still 24 hours long.
But somehow 21 of those hours are at night.
If it's almost always dark, all signs point to
A horror movie.